Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Hoad.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings. Hi Julian, how are you doing tonight?
Don't ask. Nutella. Can't eat it. Don't ask.
What's the matter with Nutella then?
I love Nutella. Do you like Nutella?
No.
Ferrero Rocher. Do you like Ferrero Rocher?
No.
I love Ferrero Rocher. I love Nutella. Can't eat it.
Why not?
Palm oil.
What, you're allergic to palm oil?
No, I'm not. But it's full of palm oil. They use palm oil as their main oil in the manufacture of Nutella.
Well, what do the orangutans say about that then?
Well, I don't think they like it much. They can't swing from palm oils.
Oh.
Palm trees. Yeah. But the annoying thing is, so here we go. I was in Malaysia 14 years ago.
Right.
And we drove from the capital up to the coast. And it took us 4.5 hours.
That's Kuala Lumpur, isn't it? Is it Kuala Lumpur?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. That's right. It took us 8 hours. But 4.5 hours of those 8 hours, we were driving past a single palm oil plantation.
Wow.
And it wasn't that he drove very, 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 very slowly. He was bombing it 4.5 hours. So that's like from here to Plymouth. One farm, one palm oil plantation, no primary rainforest anymore.
Or from you to Leeds.
Or from me to Leeds, yeah.
Which for our American listeners is half the length of Britain.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all of America. Now hold on, is America bigger or smaller than us?
In what way?
Yeah, let's not go there. So
geographically, I think that is the whole of New York State, Washington State, and a little bit of North Carolina.
Up together.
Yeah, but
so the whole of that.
No, that would be the whole of the UK, but I stand to be corrected on that one.
So all of that, or half of that, as a palm oil plantation, single one.
But the thing with Malaysia isn't as big as America, is it?
It's not. It's not as big as USA. It's about the same size as good old Blighty.
Blighty?
Britain.
What, where the limeys come from?
Yeah, that place.
Blimey.
They pull down all these wonderful, wonderful rainforest trees,
right,
to grow palm oil trees. The reasons being that palm oil is potentially healthier. If you use palm oil, you don't use hydrogenated fats.
Right.
And trans fats.
Right.
And so there are believed to be health benefits. Now, we've spoken about that before, and you can read a lot of good and a lot of bad facts into that.
Yeah.
But their argument is it's healthy. Quite coincidentally, you get about twice as much oil produced per hectare as you would with any other form of fat, soy fat, corn oil, peanut oil, things like that. So it's incredibly productive oil. And in a way, then, you can't blame the local farmers for wanting to make a bit of money growing it, selling it.
I suppose not, but you can't eat money, can you?
No, you can't. You can't. And you can't, in a way, blame Ferrero, the company, Ferrero, who make Nutella and Ferrero Rocher, for buying palm oil, because it's relatively cheap. It's in abundance and it's healthier for you. And to get it into perspective, they only use about 0.3% of the world's production of palm oil. So they're not the most evil people in the world. But you try telling that to the orangutans and the snakes and the orchids that are growing there, or not growing there anymore.
Well, the rainforest has got bigger biodiversity any other single habitat
Yeah.
on this planet that we know of.
Absolutely. And it's not all about carbon dioxide. Okay. Palm trees absorb less carbon dioxide, about 100 times less carbon dioxide per hectare than rainforest trees and rainforest plants. Possibly more. It's very difficult to calculate. So we're losing that biodiversity. We're losing that absorption of CO2 to give slightly healthier, but actually really very productive oils. And it doesn't sit well with me. So even though Ferrero are doing, I think, their best out of the situation by making their palm oil, their particular palm oil, specifically sourced to palm oil plantations that will not undergo further deforestation. It's kind of already happened.
That's sort of what, isn't that what Greenpeace has sort of almost given a tacit seal of approval to this, because they're agreeing not to strip any more forest out because it's already happened.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of okay.
But is it really? I mean, it's more okay than someone who's ripping up loads of new forests every day thinking, I'm going to get into this palm oil business. Yeah.
But I bet you if they didn't cultivate a few hectares around the edge of said plantation, within a couple of years, that would start getting overgrown with natural forest again.
Yeah, it would. And in fact, within about 6 to 8 months, if they use old coffee grounds as compost.
Wow.
There was a report in Nature a week or two back.
Yeah. So what's that about?
About it. Well, they used the byproducts of the coffee industry.
Right.
Coffee husks, coffee leaves, and the old grounds of coffee, and waste beans.
Right.
And just tipped them over the earth.
Right.
In a deforested part of rainforest. And within something like 8 months, they'd managed to get a huge biodiverse regrowth, much quicker than you would without coffee grounds.
Have I come across that with oranges as well?
Yeah, they piled about 5 tons, didn't they, of oranges onto a denuded area of deforested woodland.
Yeah. I wondered then, because I wasn't sure whether I'd actually come across that. But okay, thank you for that.
So I don't know, do I eat Nutella or not? I like Nutella, but I can't bring myself to thinking actually it's the right thing to do. Even though it's sustainable, I might just limit myself to the 1 packet of Ferrero Rocher at Christmas. That
sounds like a good idea. Because not only will you be helping save the planet, you'll be helping save your waistline.
Yes, absolutely.
And your coronary arteries.
No, you see, because palm oil doesn't do that.
I've got a feeling there's an awful lot of sugar in there as well.
There's a fair amount, yeah.
A Ferrero amount. A Ferrero amount of sugar in each Ferrero Rocher. Yeah, okay.
You could be right. Right, and there's paper and there's foil individually wrapping them. They're both recyclable.
I think that's a reasonable sacrifice. That's a small thing to do. That if we all did that and limited ourselves to 1 Ferrero Rocher a year, then that would probably send a message, and it would help.
I think it would, because actually, even though they only account for 0.3%, it's still some, isn't it? And we ought to be more careful, I think, about looking at what we buy and seeing how much of what we buy has palm oil in, because actually, I went through my cupboard the other day, and most of these spreads and jams had palm oil in.
Wow.
So I said the other day, about 6 months ago, I've got a bit better now.
But I was going to say, this is where we differ, isn't it? Because you've got young children at home, and so that sort of treat is quite normal.
Yeah.
We haven't, so we don't have. I think Marmite is probably our most exciting treat in the cupboard as a spread.
And Marmite's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Except there's a national shortage of Marmite.
Is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go out to the supermarket tomorrow and buy 3 packs.
I would do. You know why there is?
So right. So I think what you're talking about here is that because of COVID lockdown, because of the reduction in socialising and the amount of beer being drunk, that's good old traditional English beer rather than some of the lagers or the strange fizzy golden brews. So because of the reduction, the people who make Marmite have had a restriction on the amount of malt and yeast made available to them to make Marmite, and hence there is now a national shortage of Marmite.
So what we need to do.
So am I right? Is that what?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do I get a point for that?
You get a point for that.
Cool.
But we can correct that. We can make everything better, because what we need to do is every time you might think that you want a Ferrero Rocher,
yep,
you go out and buy a pint of beer instead.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anything else that is in that has palm oil in. So that's pretty much any margarine, most biscuits.
Margarine? Seriously, Julian? Do you have margarine in your fridge? Are you admitting to this?
No, I never have margarine.
Do you know the story of margarine?
I know the story of Margaret.
No. Do you know the story of margarine?
No, tell us the story of margarine. I don't use it, by the way.
Let's see if you can piece this one together then.
Okay.
Margarine.
It's not a war thing, is it?
Post-war.
Post-war rations.
Post-war rations, artificial foods, and turkeys.
I'm sorry, did you say turkeys?
Turkeys.
Okay.
Not the country. The cluck animal that goes on the table for Thanksgiving and
they all sort of gobble, aren't they? And cluck.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Gobble turkey. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Sometimes hunted in good old America. Wild turkey shoots. Yeah, come on. So, do you have any idea on this one?
Was it?
You're Googling, aren't you?
No, I wasn't. Is it fat removed from the Pygian glands of turkeys, or the feather gland?
No. Okay.
Rendered fat from turkeys?
No, they were looking for a low-cost alternative to butter, heavy on in the dairy industry, to help with the effects. I'll stand corrected on this, but I think it was post-war, so post-Second World War, where most people for a long time were still having ration cards and their rations to, 2 rashers of bacon and 4 eggs for the week type of thing. And so they were looking for a low-cost industrialized process to help feed the masses. And what happened was they were also looking for a low-cost food for turkeys. And the magnificent science boffins came up with margarine. And it was originally started as a turkey food.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It was for animal consumption only. So the story goes that I think that I'm aware of. And there was one problem. Margarine is toxic to turkeys.
Is it?
Yeah. So they got all of this stuff. So what did they do? They put it on the human market.
Fair enough. Kills turkeys, give it to people, be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where margarine come from. So
it gets my vote.
Pure processed artificial fats and oils.
It's disgusting, this stuff. I mean, I'm albeit a very amateur cook. I'm a cook, and the one thing cooks don't do is ever buy margarine.
Well, now I'm a little bit older than you, and I can remember in the 60s, the 1960s, this amazing new, perfectly healthy, mega spread. And my mum used to buy it, and we used to have it on our sandwiches.
Because it was so handy. You could spread it from the fridge.
Cheaper, and you could spread it straight from the fridge, and it came in a little plastic pot and a tub, and that was it. So that was the funky, cool, hip thing to do. Which is,
we had it.
Yeah,
we had it when I was growing up. We also had, I can't remember the brand now, but we used to have margarine in a tube.
Wow.
Yeah, then you'd squeeze the tube.
That was
Primula cheese spread, but you get your two tubes. You get your Primula cheese spread, with hunks of real prawn in it. And wow, I'm heaving as I say this. And you get your tube of margarine, and you'd squeeze the margarine over the bread, and you get the two or the other slice, and you mix it like that. So you'd spread
together.
The margarine.
What spread the two? Spread the one piece of bread with the other piece of bread,
absolutely,
and mix it all up.
Because then you wouldn't need a knife at all.
Wow.
And then you'd peel them apart, and you put the Primula cheese spread on, all higgledy-piggledy, and then slap the other slice of bread on and munch it over again. And you could be doing all of this while you're sitting down watching the telly. Bit of Morecambe and Wise, Primula, margarine.
Talking about oil, here's one for you that I found out today. We've just had the G7 summit.
Oh, yes.
Where carbon dioxide emissions and fossil fuels and all of the big nations are trying to outdo each other as to how much they're going to save and reduce. Is that sound ring any bells?
That's rung a few bells, yeah.
Okay. And admirable. I'm glad
7 nations,
Yeah, I'm glad they're talking about it, because it's important shit. There is no planet B or plan et B. This is it. We've got one planet and we've got to look after it.
So there's Mars, but it looks like we've already screwed that up.
Well, the Chinese are there already.
Oh, there we go then.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll do a wonderful job.
I'm sure they will.
More of that later.
So, as Englishmen, historically, we have one traditional adversary. Like Sherlock Holmes.
And his Moriarty.
And I can't think of any other historic ones.
There were Caesar and his Brutus.
Caesar and his Brutus. I was going to say Cleopatra then, but that'd be wrong, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah.
Achilles and his was it Paris killed Achilles?
Well, no, it was his heel, wasn't it?
Yeah, but Paris shot through his heel with the arrow through his heel.
I was talking about the
G7.
G7.
Only his heel that wasn't stuck in the waters the river Styx when his mum.
That's right, because
into it. Yeah.
When his mum baptized him, she had to hold him by a part, and she held him by his Achilles heel, or what we now call is the Achilles heel, to dip in the river Styx, didn't she?
That's right, because she was trying to make him immortal.
Immortality, wasn't it? Yeah.
She was a Nereid, a water sprite, and she killed the first 7 children of hers by performing the immortality rite incorrectly. And she was just about to do this to Achilles, and her husband came through and said, "What the hell are you doing? Don't do that. That's naughty." And so she didn't ever finish it, which is why he still had this heel that wasn't protected. Which brings us back to the G7 summit.
Indeed. And it's not really, well, apart from the fact that Hippocrates was Greek like Achilles was. And of course, what we get out of Hippocrates is hypocrisy.
Indeed.
Which brings us back to the G7 summit.
There's a lot of hypocrisy there.
Particularly, I found out today from our old adversary, which is where we got into adversaries, the French.
Non, non, non. J'étais la vache.
Monsieur Macron, the president of France, stands up at the G7 and says they're going to reduce their dependency on fossil fuels. They're going to cut their carbon dioxide emissions. They're going to do all sorts of good stuff.
Good, yeah.
But he's also signed into law a multi-billion pound subsidy for the French national oil company, Total, to start drilling for oil in the Arctic.
In the Arctic?
In the Arctic.
When you say the Arctic, you mean the bit of land at the top of the world that's not doing very well because of global warming already?
Yeah.
Right.
So because it's not doing very well, the amount of ice covering the Arctic, and bear in mind the Arctic Circle is not all ice. It's not just a polar ice cap. It comes quite a way down Norway, and Iceland is within the Arctic Circle, and things like that. But generally, the area of permanent ice that sits on the top, a little bit like Antarctica, sitting on the bottom of the planet. I'm ever so sorry if you believe the planet was invented 6,000 years ago and is flat, but we believe that it's actually a globe. And so, that area of ice, because that ice is melting because of global warming, it means that the seas are more accessible.
Right.
Which means that they can now start drilling for oil in an easier environment.
For example, the Northwest Passage would have been a doddle these days, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So at the same time as going to a summit and saying we're going to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels, he's increasing his dependency on fossil fuels.
Correct.
I see a bit of a dilemma there.
Well, was it Achilles or was it Hippocrates?
I think it's Nutella.
Pretty much.
No, the other one. Hippocrates,
no, I think you're right. I think it's Nutella. Wow.
I think it's all about giving a toss or not giving a toss, isn't it?
I think you're right. And money.
Because let's face it, money, whilst not being the root perhaps of all evil, is certainly the cause of a fair amount of it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think there's a meme on the internet. I don't know if I can actually find it. And it's attributed to various people. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Only when the last tree has died and the last river has been poisoned and the last fish been caught will we realize that we cannot eat money.
And yea, there will be a big cry of whoops, lorks and mussy me.
Yeah. Well, that's I think that is attributed on the internet to a Cree Indian proverb. Native American, the Cree people.
Really? So a fair while ago then?
Well, yeah, if
it really was.
If it really was. I mean, I think it's one of those internet memes that you could probably apply to, any ancient civilization, even the British, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in comparison, the British Empire has been going since 1500. It's probably dead now, but it didn't do too bad in its 500 years.
It did all right, bless it.
Well,
aspirations above its station, but it did all right.
well, probably apart from slavery.
Well, obviously slavery was a low point, I think.
Yeah, and the massacre of indigenous peoples.
Well, yes. The massacres, again, not brilliant.
No,
Not brilliant.
when
When you say massacres, you mean things like the quelling of the Zulu uprising by killing the whole native tribes.
It's funny. Yeah. I was actually thinking about that because that was when we invented what were those things called? Concentration camps.
That's right. Now they were a good thing initially because they helped people concentrate. Or am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Okay.
And of course, they sprang to fame with really they really hit the zeitgeist with that's an appropriate word, isn't it? Zeitgeist with that chap Adolf Schicklgruber.
Oh, Adolf Schicklgruber, yes, the cobbler. Yeah.
Otherwise known as Hitler.
We haven't done ourselves proud, really, have we?
What, the Brits?
Yeah.
Well, probably not, but our empire at least lasted 500 years.
It lasted pretty well. How long did the Mongol Empire last? Less than that.
Well, I don't know. If you think about it, because they probably lasted about 200 years, the Mongol Empire, didn't they? Because it was Genghis Khan that started to bring, or Genghis as we call him in English, Genghis Khan, who started to bring the nomadic tribes together as one nation. And he and his hordes swept right across Eurasia. Certainly took it to the Chinese, didn't they? And they actually they attempted to invade Japan as well.
They did, and they made it across the Gobi Desert. Yeah. Which is 30 days of travel on horseback, I believe. Is that right?
Something.
And they made it with an army big enough and fit enough to be able to ensiege the Chinese army, the Qing nation, when they got there.
Absolutely.
That's pretty amazing stuff.
But then you look at, so they didn't last that long. So how about the Roman Empire?
Oh, the Roman Empire. Yeah, that lasted a good long time, didn't it? Let's see. It started with Romulus and Remus. They founded Rome. When was that? 200 BC, was it?
No, I think no. Must have been longer than that. Must have been longer than that.
I'm going to Google that. Well, it was a nation before it was an empire. So when it was only an empire after the death of Julius Caesar. But it was when was Rome founded?
Sure?
Yeah. He was Emperor Augustus was the first emperor.
Okay.
So Julius Caesar wasn't an emperor. When was Rome founded? 753 BC.
700, right?
21st of April.
Was there a particular topping out parade or ceremony?
I think they all had a drink or two.
Okay.
But 21st of April, 753 BC, Romulus and Remus founded Rome on the site where they were suckled by the she-wolf as orphaned infants.
Fantastic.
They did great.
Fantastic. I wonder if they got planning permission, or whether they just thought they'd go for forgiveness rather than asking permission.
I think they just founded it. Right. And then 9 years later, when someone came along and said, "Here, you can't put this empire here."
Yeah.
They said, "Sorry, but it's too late now. We've been here for 9 years." And they said, "Oh, bugger, you're right, yeah. Okay, well, don't build that Colosseum any bigger. Put a roof on it."
Right. Okay.
Gave them 400 years to do it, and they never got around to it.
Wow. Wow. So, okay, so all right, so 700 So if we say, give them 100 years to build Rome or to establish Rome. So from 600 BC to, it was sacked by the Visigoths, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was. The Roman Empire was all but gone about 200 years, 250 years AD, wasn't it?
So around 600 to 800 years then.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. Not bad.
They did well.
Well, they didn't do too badly because they bumped up alongside the Egyptian Empire, didn't they?
They did. Yes.
So Antony and Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
Famous work of art by Sir Winston Shakespeare.
Oh, Winnie Shakespeare. He was fantastic, wasn't he? Yeah. Never has the moving finger writ
Was that Shakespeare?
Sparkle so much. That was Shakespeare. Yeah.
Was it? Fantastic.
Yeah. Fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you know the thing I can never remember about Winnie Shakespeare?
What's that?
I don't know. I can never remember it.
Well, there's a question for you, isn't it?
Yeah. What can I never remember? I can't remember it. It's gone. Completely gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you a B for that then.
That's very kind of you. You know, there's a new film.
You gave me a point earlier on. I'll give you a B for that.
Okay.
In fact, I'll tell you what. I'll give you 2 Bs.
2 Bs?
Yeah.
Or not 2 Bs? That's the question.
No. Well, 2 Bs. Yeah. Yeah. Go on. What were you going to say?
Okay. I was going to say.
Bloody cool.
There's a new film come out about Cleopatra, or coming out about Cleopatra.
Right.
And a very, very fine actress called Gal Gadot is playing the role.
Can't say I know her.
Gal Gadot played Wonder Woman.
Haven't seen that either.
No, she's a great actress, or actor. You can't call actors. They're all actors. She's a great actor.
Wake up! Wake up!
I'm sorry. I'm woke.
Are you awoke?
I'm woke.
You're woke, are you?
There's a great actor, Gal Gadot,
Yeah.
being cast as Cleopatra,
Right.
and she's Israeli, and there was a huge outcry because it's cultural appropriation. Why do you get an Israeli actor to play Cleopatra? You need an Egyptian. There are plenty of Egyptian actors who can play the role, except Cleopatra in history was Greek. So
Was she?
Yeah. Probably. There's a lot of confusion because there wasn't just one Cleopatra, there were about 14. It's a very common name, and
Like Sally.
because of the a bit like Sally, because of the way that the dynasties were run and controlled in pharaonic times.
Right.
Cleopatra, the first, second, third, up to the 14th, would have married initially their brothers. If their brothers weren't available, then they might have married their sons. If their sons weren't available, then and only then would they have married outside of the family.
Wow. I thought we weren't going to discuss brachycephalics tonight.
We're not discussing brachycephalics. No, definitely not. Apparently, Cleopatra. A lot of comment has been made on Cleopatra's nose about how beautiful it was, not about how used to go when she breathed.
Trying not to die with each breath.
Yes, like brachycephalics do.
Okay.
We're not going to mention those. I was going to have, because I couldn't have a Nutella or a Ferrero Rocher.
Right,
I was going to have an ice cream, because I've got some ice cream in the freezer.
Right.
But I looked at the ingredients, and my vanilla ice cream had palm oil in it.
Oh dear, we haven't got ice cream in our freezer.
No, you see, I've got kids, so we got ice cream, but we can't have it. It's got palm oil, but it's also got vanilla.
Right. What's the problem with vanilla? Perfectly natural.
It is natural. You know where vanilla comes from?
Pods
of an orchid. And orchids are my very favourite plant. So it comes from a particular type of orchid.
I thought
The
it
orchid
grew
was
on
originally
vanilla
grown.
trees.
Well, the orchid is called Vanilla planifolia,
Right.
and it was originally discovered in Mexico.
Right.
So the Mexicans would have, because they're the originators of chocolate, I believe, as well. So they used to have a great life eating vanilla flavored chocolates when they were, but before cream was invented. And so they grew vanilla, and ultimately it was discovered that the places like Madagascar had a climate that was even better suited to the vanilla orchid.
Right.
And so Madagascar is now the main producer of vanilla. And the problem is that in the last few years, vanilla prices have gone up so much that it's a huge cash crop. The prices to the locals have increased about 300% over the past 4 years.
Do I know where this is going?
Yeah, deforestation.
Can I guess for a point?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the world price in vanilla is skyrocketing because of the demands for vanilla. And one of the best places for growing it is a subtropical jungle type of climate.
Where lemurs live, and that's the only places where lemurs live.
So let me think. The species known as humans who like
Good hand.
money,
Yes.
and need money to buy stuff. I bet we are chopping down the rainforests and jungles in Madagascar to plant vanilla plantations.
Absolutely, buggering it completely, all gone. Yep.
Do I get a point for that?
You get 2 points for that.
So that gives me 3 points so far.
Yeah, and
so I get
double
3 points versus your 2 Bs.
I've got 2 Bs, and you got
3 points. I'm going
to. You're in the lead.
I'm going to win tonight.
I think you will. That's really good.
How are you managing to do this, Julian?
I really don't know. Well, I do, because actually, I started saying before, didn't I, that with the Malaysian peasant farmers, you can't blame them for wanting to grow crops, and with the Madagascan peasant farmers, you can't blame them for wanting to grow crops, and that's true. I stand by that. However, these are multinational companies growing 4.5-hour drive longs or long drives of palm oil trees. And these are multinational conglomerates denuding the Madagascan forests to grow vanilla and giving insufficient money to the peasants who are working those lands. But we can do stuff. This is the thing, we can help. There is an initiative called the Sustainable Vanilla Initiative.
Right.
That works to do 3 things, I believe, to remind myself of those 3 things. They are improving and sustaining the livelihoods and incomes of vanilla households. So they're making sure that money from the vanilla plantations goes to the people who are actually working on it, and they can have a better quality of life and afford luxuries such as water, medication, and plasters.
Yeah, look, good sanitation and water. Absolute luxuries.
Bloody luxury.
Too right. I mean, you're actually taking me back down to the time I spent in Africa.
It's the basics, isn't it? Yeah. So I'll tell you the other 2 things are increasing the quality of vanilla by reducing the early harvesting, because subtropical places can grow 2, 3, 4, 5 harvests a year of whatever plant they want.
There's a consistency. The days are equal to the nights, and the nights are equal to the days. Temperature doesn't vary tremendously, although temperatures are increasing.
Yeah,
and there's not a massive. It's not like in northern climes or extreme southern climes you get snow in winter. and baking hot sun in summer. There's a temperate climate, isn't there? It's fairly equal.
It's
So
good growing land, and so they can get crop after crop after crop. All they need to do is work out how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
And what they do is they harvest the vanilla pods earlier and earlier and earlier and try and bring them on artificially. And this leads to increased demand on the crops and poorer harvests generally. And so they have to grow more and more. So by letting them wait a little longer, you get better, more premium vanilla that they can charge more for.
Right.
So there's the quid pro quo. They're actually making more money by producing better vanilla. They just get fewer crops a year.
Yeah.
But if they get fewer crops a year for more money, they make that yield back. And the third thing they're doing is to try and ensure this is the Sustainable Vanilla Initiative. Third thing they're doing is to ensure that child labour isn't used.
That thing that we don't like to talk about.
We don't. And we're getting back to what Britain was particularly good at a few hundred years ago.
Yeah.
Child labour. Children were brilliant for working in the mines because they'd eat hardly anything.
They're small.
Yeah. Really good for getting up chimneys. Okay.
Yep.
Small. They don't eat a lot.
Yep.
And they don't cost a lot when they die and replace them.
There you go. We wow.
Because they're small, you can bully them around. They won't hit back like a grown-up worker.
Yeah. There's a lot of benefits to employing slave child labour. They've got very dexterous fingers as well. So they can produce the latest fashions very cheaply, very easily. And because they don't necessarily know any alternative, the idea of working 18 hours in a sweatshop on a sewing machine 7 days a week, it's normal for them.
That's all they've known. It's good. They like it. Bless their little hearts. Their little faces. Yeah. They wouldn't like sunlight anyway. Goodness.
No. Who was that chap? Was Charles Dickens actually in cahoots with Wilberforce?
I believe he was, yeah.
Was he really? Have I just made a peculiar link that has been floating around in my brain that I've never made before? And obviously, for some people,
did he hear it subliminally or something? Or
I don't know, but if I need the gaps filling in, then I'm sure quite a few other people will. Wilberforce.
Yeah, dear listeners, if we're getting any of this wrong, please re-educate us, because we only work on the information we're given. And I must admit, a lot of this information I've taken from primary internet sources, and I haven't checked much.
Well, I haven't even gone that far, because when I learned about this stuff, we didn't have them.
No. Or
mobile phones.
We had encyclopedias
and libraries.
Yeah.
But Wilberforce was the man credited predominantly, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, Julian, because if you said Wilberforce to me, I would say he's the man that was at the forefront of abolishing slavery.
Yes, he was indeed.
And for me, Charles Dickens wrote that seminal work where the little boy in the workhouse asked for more porridge.
Ah, yes. Twisty Oliver.
That's the one. Oliver Twist. But I've never read it, because we had to study that at school back in the day, and it was all a bit boring for me.
You know, I read it when I was about 12 and thought, what a piece of utter rubbish. My wife read it about 4 years ago and said, this is brilliant, you've got to read it again. I said, I'm not going to read it again. I suffered it when I was 10. She said, read it again. So I read it again under sufferance, and it is amazing. And there's a reason why he's such a well-renowned and acclaimed author, because he writes a cracking book.
Oh, right.
And at the age of 10, for some strange reason, I was not mature enough to understand it.
Actually, we've drifted way off track tonight as we just rambled our way through. So,
Yep.
and I know that we're going to get into trouble with the producer because we haven't done a couple of things. So, tell you what, as we haven't got a guest tonight, and because I've won 2 Bs to 3 points,
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you to a 60-second CPD. You up for that?
I'm up for it.
What?
I am up for it.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you to a 60-second CPD then. Let me get the clock running. And after that, we'd better do our CPD certificate because I feel that we have actually educated our listeners into various things like palm oil and vanilla and what the evil Monsieur Macron is currently engaged in. And the French have got to be stopped with that nonsense.
He's like Gru, isn't he? Macron, Despicable Me, they're both the same person.
No, that's Groot, not Groot. Not Groot.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I was thinking of Groot.
What, Groot?
Yeah,
No,
is he not?
Isn't
Is
he
he not
cool?
the cartoon character?
No, he's in Adventures of the Galaxy or something.
Oh, is he? Right. Okay, fair
He's
enough.
a little tree man.
A tree man.
He's a tree man. He's a little tree. Except he walks around and he says, "I am Groot."
No, that's a politician from Belgium, isn't it?
No, that's isn't that Gruber?
No, that's the guy who did Just the Two of Us with Grover Washington Jr. Yeah.
Right, you're just trying to avoid 60-second CPD, aren't you?
I'm gonna do 60 seconds. Do you know what I'm gonna do my 60-second CPD on?
Come on then.
I'm gonna do it on orchids.
Yeah.
And why we think of castration when we talk about orchids. Because I've got an orchid collection, Mike, don't you?
Yeah.
And I've got the orchids. They're on the tortoise vivarium.
Yeah.
And every few weeks I add another one. I hope my wife doesn't notice.
Right.
And she says,
as long as they're the same colour, you'll be fine.
Yeah. She says, "Is that a new orchid?" I said, "No, I've had that for months. It's fine."
Right.
Yeah.
I used to be like that with bicycles.
What, you put bicycles on top of your tortoise enclosure?
No, I used to get new bicycles, and I found that if I got one that was the same colour as the last one, I could generally get away with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so come on then. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Come on. So you're going to do 60
I'm
seconds.
going to do orchids.
Look, my iPad's switched off now already. You're going to do 60-second CPD on
orchids.
On orchids. Okay. Right. Okay. So, Julian Hoad, co-presenter of Veterinary Ramblings, I challenge you to 60 seconds CPD on orchids. Hang on, I've started now. Stop.
No, you started too early.
Oh, no.
You started too early.
10 seconds is gone. Oh,
Stop.
God.
No, go back.
No. Oh,
Too
dear,
late.
oh, dear. Right, okay. Start again.
Right, okay, start again.
God, we haven't got a guest with us, isn't it?
We've done this before.
Yeah, well, I'm a professional. I've got a T-shirt that says so.
Go on, please.
Okay. So, Julian Hoad, your 1-minute CPD on orchids starting now.
So castration is known as orchidectomy. Orchid is from the Greek orchis, meaning testicle, and orchids were named thus because the root of certain orchids are shaped like testicles. In fact, in the 1300s, they were known as bollockworts. It's the largest family of flowering plants with around 26,000 species. All orchid embryo plants develop from a protocorm, which has to be infected by a fungus to grow. They're the oldest flowering plants evolved around 100 million years ago. They're important horticultural plants, but also important as food. So vanilla is derived from an orchid, Vanilla planifolia, most of which is grown in Madagascar, a factor that is adding to the deforestation of Madagascar. Salep, a kind of starch used to make drinks and desserts in the Middle East, and a type of bread from Zambia, are both made from orchid tubers. It is also used to flavour certain rums. A dendrobian orchid is being driven to extinction in East Asia due to its use of traditional Chinese medication, and several orchid types are used in the cosmetics and shampoo industry in Europe, often using unsustainable processes.
There we go. Nailed it.
I will take questions, please.
No, I can't think of any. I'm sort of totally gobsmacked that you used the expression bollock wort.
Yeah, so now this is interesting. I'd often wondered, this is a few years ago I found out, because I bothered to look, but I wondered why we called castrations orchidectomies, when orchids are clearly flowers and testicles aren't. But castration is the more precise use of the term, because of the Greek orchis, testicle. But the roots, the bulb or tuber of orchids, actually doesn't look like a testicle. But in the 19th century, botanists didn't get out much, and of course sexual appetites were very repressed, and so they looked at anything and thought, oh, that looks a bit naughty, that I'll call it something like clitocybe or vulvaceae, or this, oh, it's a ball, isn't it? I'm going to call that orchid. So, Mr. Andrews, you've come to the Linnaean Classification Society with the suggestion of a name for this rather beautiful flower. What are you going to call it? I'm going to call it a bollet. Fair enough. Can we give it the Greek name for that? Orchid? Yes, right. Fair enough. Good. Okay, thank you very much. Next one, please.
Come on, Charles.
Go on. Well, it's a dreadful thing to call it. I suppose really,
I didn't mean that, Charles.
Oh, no, well, right. Darwin, you mean?
I was referring to Darwin, yes. Naturally.
There are so many Charleses around, aren't there?
Well, yeah. Wow. How cool.
Yeah. But I love orchids. I love the fact that they account for almost half of the flowering plants in the world.
Wow. That's a statistic.
That's just type-wise.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And so I've got a CBD certificate to reflect that.
You've done the CPD certificate, your own CPD?
Yeah.
Come on, let's have a look at it.
Right. Great, isn't it? Here we go. So these are some of my photos of orchids. And
well, that's all there is on the certificate.
Sorry?
That's all there is on the certificate.
Orchids, just orchids.
A certificate of complete balls.
Because there's orchids,
certificate that Ghoulies. A certificate that Ghoulies have been
discussed in depth today.
Never mind the bollocks. Here's Mike and Julian. Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah, so that's a reference, of course, to the famous album by
the Sex Pistols.
Sex Pistols, yeah. And they managed to get that album published at a time when the British press or the British licensing authorities wouldn't publish anything, because they maintained that bollocks was an Old English term for a policeman.
All right.
And indeed it was.
Right. I thought peelers was the Old English name for a policeman.
There were peelers after John Peel.
John Peel, yeah.
John Peel means, do you know John Peel? But yeah, John Peel. They're also bobbies, weren't they?
Yeah.
But also apparently known only to the Sex Pistols and whoever they paid, or whoever granted the license for their album. Bollocks was also, I think, a private police force.
All right.
But bollock worts in the 1300s were the name for orchids, bee orchids particularly. If you pull them up to expose the tuber, it does look incredibly like a testicle. Please don't do that, because if you try and pick or pull up a wild flower, certainly in the United Kingdom, you can be fined £2,000 or £3,000.
Quite right.
Rightly so, because they are endangered species. Indeed. So don't do that. Enjoy them at your local garden centre, or
well, you can find orchid species throughout various wild meadows and woods, can't you? If you look and if you pay attention, and actually
it's present on every continent at almost every height.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's the saying? Leave only footprints and take only memories.
Take only memories. That's right.
Yeah. That's a good way to do that.
It's a good one, isn't it?
So tell me, you're not going to tell me a joke tonight, are you?
Considering it, I've got a pretty naff one. For a change.
And hey, what's new? What's new and news on Veterinary Rambling? Julian's going to tell a naff joke.
So we've spoken a lot about historical events.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you the history of yodeling.
All right.
Because there's quite an interesting history. And it all started in Switzerland 135 years ago.
Oh.
When a travelling salesman knocked on someone's door. This farmer was living on the side of the Jungfrau. Jungfrau means young bride, but it's also the name of a mountain.
Big mountain.
Big mountain, the Jungfrau. And the travelling salesman said, "Please, sir, I've come a long way. I've lost my bearings, and I'm miles from where I should be. Could you give me shelter for the night?" The farmer took pity and said, Yes, of course I will. You stay here. But mine," he said, "I've got 2 daughters, and I want you to leave them alone." He said, I would never. How old are they? So they're 19 and 21. 19 and 21. I will. Of course, I will respect you. I would not even dream of going anywhere near them. Well, mind you, don't. I won't. Cool. Because I've got to be up really early in the morning to tend to my herd of cattle, and I don't want to hear when I get back that you've done anything untoward. Yeah, of course, you can trust me. It's fine. And so the farmer gets up in the morning and he goes off and milks his cows, and he comes back and he finds his daughters in tears because, sad to say, this travelling salesman has taken advantage of them. And he rushes out of the house and he sees on the other side of the valley the travelling salesman running like Billy-O to get away. And he shouts out, "You bastard! You've taken my daughters!" And he shouts out, "And your old lady too!" And that is how yodeling came about.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, fabulous. Well, I think all that it leaves me to do now is to say thank you very much indeed for joining me, Mike Brampton, Julian Hoad.
Thank you. Oh, thank you both of our listeners.
Yeah. So it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from him.
And may your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you. And
cheers, Julian.
If you've liked what you've seen and heard and avoided tonight, please like us.
Yeah. Subscribe. Click like. Follow us. Yeah. Send a message to your friends. Share it with your friends.
Wherever you follow your usual podcast and other places too.
Yeah. Drop us a line and we'll see if we can incorporate some of your ideas. You take care. From me and him, cheerio.
Cheerio. Good night.